Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to Grayscale. Um, Today, I don't want to take you too much time. I just want to share with you a very special class. We just had the class number 29th of Concept Art. We were going and diving into some of really interesting concepts about how to understand composition and how to dive in at the core of the essence of what I feel composition should be about. So yeah, this is pretty exciting. It's based upon some of concepts that we've talked in class a lot. Uh, Also, integrated to some of Mike Heal's ideas. And yeah, so welcome everyone, and hope you enjoy it. Welcome to our class 29th of Concept Art. And let's see how you're doing with your exercise. Probably, yeah, that's pretty cool. 10. So you probably, if you can see, like when you start to apply, the principles, you can see how much you improve, by thinking. It's not, we tend to believe like it's about these things, or like about luck, but they're not. They're about like those really specific principles. So you see that the one you did here, which how it's working, in terms of three-dimensionality, and you had the other one, which was, in terms of space, how much, the second one works so much better, right? So hopefully, yeah, you can see that difference. So if that's okay with you, I want to start with the same exercise, the one with the sketches we left in our previous lesson. So you start, to dive into this lessons way deeper. Okay. So it was, actually, based upon, the concept that Tian was making in her illustration. And now we were actually, starting with one of our own. So it's once you have this, you can even try, take pictures about it for probably yourself, posing like this. So you start to see like how those things start to feel more realistic. So you feel how reality is. So one of the things that I always, say, it's go and break symmetry, right? So if you can see, like in this case, you have like a really symmetrical head, right? So the more we break symmetry, the more it'll feel natural to us. So you see, like everything starts, like the flow of these lines, it feels like we were saying, in terms of composition, it feels like a bit crazy, because the probably, the horizon line, it's not horizontal, and the angle of the camera, it's weird, right? So it feels kind of cool, that idea. In our previous lesson, Dimana, we were mentioning that concept, which is, telling a lot of little things about composition. So one of them, it's to say it for a second time. Let's say we have like our composition like this. right? And we take the thirds, kind of like the thirds of the camera, to find those points of interest, right? And then we think, okay, where it's gonna be the horizon line, which is subconsciously it's always there, even though if we're not seeing it, it's really important to have it in mind. If we place the horizon line, let's say we have a character, and we place the character, let's say here, and he's telling us something like an interview, right? So if we're thinking about an interview, the horizon line, it's supposed to be at the height of the eyes. Why is it have to be at the height of the eyes? Because it feels like we're talking to someone that it's like us, like someone equal. So that's something that feels comfortable. If we're seeing him, the interview goes from, we wouldn't care probably about it, the voice of that person, if that person it's under us, right? It'll feel like the voice of that person will be too let's say this is the perspective of, you see, like it feels a tiny voice, like it's something that it's not a respected person, kind of, and the opposite, if we go like with a voice and someone that it's right at the top of us, it feels like too like a tyrant, it feels like it is too powerful. So that's why in interviews they have two things that are really interesting to think about, and you can use it in everything about composition. So those two things about composition are the fact, we were saying with Tien in our previous lesson, and I want to dive into this, which is so interesting, it's so eye-opening. When things are going from left to right, they feel easy. Why? Because that's the way we read, right? The read and we write like that, so it feels natural, it feels easy to go from left to right. But if we go like this, it feels hard, it feels difficult, it feels complicated. So if we the relationship within a composition should always be about light against dark, against the balance between, let's say, evil and good, let's say between big and small, between round against pointy, against opposites, right? Because with opposites we understand dynamics within the whole relationships about the universe. So this one about easy and hard, something that it's used all over the place within composition, in storytelling, in precisely more than anything, in this side of the world, because that's the way we read, right? So it's that's why it feels. So if you go to, let's say, you can see that like in an interview, right? So that's why
the guest in an interview, it's always, you can see him like the seat, the of the guest, it's on this side, and the interviewer, it's right at this place. So it's almost every time that it goes like this. Why? Because we want, the feeling of the guest. We want him, to feel welcome. So by making him, the easiest way, for the viewer to make, the guest feel welcome, is that the words of the guest come really easy towards the interviewer. So it's like, this is, the place of the interviewer. So it's not that in this case that the things about for him are hard. No, in this case, it's just to make, easier for the guest. So you can see that in every almost in everything. If you go to any cinematic moment, you can see the vulnerable. Like probably someone, it's in a hospital. I just saw it on Peaky Blinders, right? So I was actually, mentioning you how great, the composition and everything about this Netflix show. It's so well told. It's such a great storytelling. They have probably in some character development. It's way too adult. So sometimes it gets a bit boring, in my opinion. But in the way they place, the storyboards and so on, it's gorgeous. So there's like this character's in the hospital, and he's like really weak in the bed. So he's like this in the bed, and he's almost dead on the hospital. So the police guy, he's on top of him. So he comes on this side. And just by placing the two characters like this, you feel subconsciously how, powerful, it's the cop right on top of the guy on the hospital. So it feels like, his words come so easily, and he's not even, almost like not even able, to speak. So every time his words feel like they're not, have no power whatsoever. So it's the relationship between making, the easy, they flow, the words flow to this side, but they go really hard on this side. So if we think about that, you can go and think what would be, if we're thinking about this, right? Probably if you want to feel like it's easy for her, and and the dead guy, it's dead on this side, that's pretty cool, right? Because it feels like she's coming like really easily, but then it's really hard for him to go into the camera, right? So that relationship, you can see it all over cinema. They always do it with action movies, especially the good ones, the old ones. I was mentioning one of the classical, like this most, like one of the greatest action movies ever, probably it's Terminator 2. So I highly recommend to watch this one. It's such a great movie. Like they never do with this. Probably the old directors are the only ones taking the time to solve with this great level of craft, this movie. So he's James Cameron. So he's an amazing genius. And you can see like all his, like if you start to study like how he composed in terms of colors, in terms of symbols, he goes like the same with Avatar, which is, probably, yeah, that's the most recent movie he's ever, like, he did. And it's amazing. I mean, it cannot be more entertaining than that. And he plays within Terminator like these planes. So the evil almost like in a, like, he's got like three sequences that are really important for the transformation of the characters. And they're always going through a tunnel, like through a tunnel, and the evil, it's going always within that tunnel from uh, from left to right. So it is really, it feels, you feel that pressure, because it feels like it is so easy, for him. Well, the counterpart, which is the Terminator, the other one, like the good one, it's coming from right to left. So yeah, you can use all of these things, and you can see it, like how they use it in everything. It's not something that it works sometimes. No, if you see Kung Fu Panda, you'll see like all the sequences. If you see, like, let's say, at the beginning of Kung Fu Panda, when Poe, it's going like super super excited because now he's the dragon warrior, and he starts, to go into the valley to protect people. It's so easy for him that all those sequences go like this. And if you go to the first one, when he's got, to go to the evil guy, to the greatest villain, he's got to cross the stairs and go like this. It's all it's used, I mean, it's everywhere. It's like, it's so exciting, to realize these things, because um it's like that grammar, like that basic grammar that we use to make the readability of what we do in terms of emotion, in terms of how to get, to the subconscious of people. So yeah, I highly recommend you to like watch this great pieces, and start to rethink, and see them slowly, and think to yourselves, like, why are they, doing this, or why this is exciting when I'm looking at it, why is this working so well, right? If you see like Titanic, the other of James Cameron, if we think in terms of composition, um, he's going with three. This is based, this is the thing I'm about to say. It's based upon the Mike Hill. He's a concept artist. He's amazing, and he says how James Cameron is such a great genius, because he's not working. He's making like pop culture movies, right? Those are like pop culture movies, but he's not going like the other directors. He's not going with just stupid explosions. No, he's going beyond, because he's going, if we think about like the obvious, would be like Michael Bay. So if you think about Transformers, if you think about Bad Boys, I think it's the other one. Um, those movies are working in one side of your brain. So they're going with the reptile, um, brain part of yours. So that they're going, for that basic and instinctive part, which is the reptile. This is in charge of the most basic things within ourselves. So we think about reproduction, we think about survival, and we think about if we're hungry, like those really, really basic things that are just about survival. If we think about entertainment, this is really important. We got to go into those. Otherwise, it's not entertaining. That's it. But we got to go even beyond that. Why? Because our brain, it's not just, we're not crocodiles. We're human beings. So we have the other, like the second part of our brains, which is, like we think it's like mammals, right? And the third one, which is like the human part. So probably in the mammal part, there's like more sensitive things. We have like the sense of family goes here. Why? Because if you think about it in this, this is evolution as well, right? So if you go and you see a reptile, they are like pretty much when they go out, from the egg, they're like just a tiny version of the adult. They don't need to be raised. They don't need their mother's milk. They don't need like a social interaction as much as mammals. So if you think like a crocodile, they're like way more basic, right? They don't need to be caressed. But if you see mammals, mammals in general, we need our moms. We need that the feel of home. So if you think like the apes, right? The apes need to be in community. They need to be part of a group. They need social structures, hierarchies. Probably, yeah, but reptiles as well, but not in the way of like in a deeper way we as mammals need it. And if we go, to the third, which is the human brain, the frontal cortex, it's the one that makes us able to dream, to visualize. And obviously, a lot of mammals can dream as well. If you see a dog, they can dream. What I mean about dream is like to wonder, like to create abstract ideas. So it's the abstraction, is the symbol. So the great thing about about really, really brilliant composition, it's not to be able just to be here. I mean, that's my opinion, right? If you think probably something that it's just here, it might be really interesting, but for some people would become really boring, right? So it's like those like really heavy mathematical stuff, right? So it's completely abstract and symbol, and you have no connection with the mammal brain or the reptile one. Or like really philosophical stuff. But when you mix, the three of them, you have what it's, the definition of something entertaining. So you have like, obviously we have to survive. We have like those, there's always almost like, why those fun and entertaining movies always have like a bomb, you know, it's about to explode all the time. So survival, it's always at stake. So the stakes are all the time like in a high stakes, you know, like those things are like in a heavy things going on. But we should also, you know, have the family, you know, the concept of family, of home, of community. And obviously if we want to, you know, like do a like really great job, it's to have the three of them. So to think how could we, you know, impact the subconscious in a greater way. So that's why like some movies like let's say, you know, the one I always some of the ones that I always say, it's like Finding Nemo, right? You think about like Finding Nemo, that this is so good, you know, they are like going with all those three so much, you know, into every single one of them. So if you think like about the abstract thought and how we understand subconsciously like how love and life itself, it's like a sea, but at the same time it's like his son, it's at stake all the time, so he's got to rescue him. And at the same, it's really sensitive because it's about the family. But if you see like a Michael Bay movie, it's normally they just work here. You know, it's like the hot guy, the hot lady, and everything explodes all around them, and everything is about survival. But that's it. So they're going for this, and it's like that hyper you know, about uh, going with extreme lights and explosions and you know all those things to hyper stimulate your brain, you know, but that's going just in this sense. So I always, you know, encourage you to think when you're composing images to use the three of them. If you're thinking, you know, about what I find like most fun and the most interesting, probably, you know, it's like entertaining, right? So it's great that we can take the three parts of our brain, which would be, you know, like that melody, and probably that's when we, if we go to the cinema and when we like we cry and when we think this is the best thing I've ever seen, probably is because it went into all of those three, not just in one. And the same thing goes, you know, with every art piece and everything. It's because it goes into the three of them, not just in one. So do you have any up to this point, do you have any questions, Tiana or Dimana?
I don't, Jim. Thank you.
What about you,
Yeah, me neither. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So we're taking all this, you know, concepts, and how are we, you know, gonna translate those into three-dimensional world, right? That would be like a great question. And so we started make really we can start to make really simple sketches, and we start to play out with all these things. And obviously like this is like a musician, right? So it takes a bit of time to start to have like all those scales so you can play this music like for the best. but it's how you take all these concepts to like attach, to be attached to all of those three parts of your brain. And I don't know if I don't know what's happening actually on, with pop culture and so on, but most of it's so poor nowadays. You would think like, okay, this is so great because now we have Netflix and we have like all these platforms that are allowing, people to make a lot of content. But probably, this is affecting quality. It's becoming more about quantity than it is, about quality. And probably, it's happening with every visual thing that it's going on nowadays. So probably it's attached to this basic concept. How do we make and create these melodies within those three parts of our brains? Because the brain, if we understand the brain, probably, it's the best way to understand narrative and to understand composition. So how am I, how am I going to be able, to be attached, in the images we're creating? How are we gonna, start to play out with all those, with those three basic things? So always think, how the 1, 2, and 3. So the reptile, the mammal, and the human. And you see, it's not about saying that something it's better than the other one. It's actually how something turns out great if we take the three. So that's like the moment where we feel, oh, this is great. So when we go to composition or to anything, we think, about the human side of the brain, and we think, okay, what's the symbol? What's the, the abstract thought that we want to portray here? I don't know. Let's say we want to say like, so we would go, with the abstraction of two opposites. I don't know if you want to, we can start, to apply this, into, and that's why you also have to think about perspective as well, because perspective, it's going to allow you to express that that thought even better, right? So I don't know if you want to say something, Dimana, I don't know if, let's say, just a random thing, if you want to say like something that you're interested in right now, or something. It could be anything. I mean, if
Let me think. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about water lately.
okay.
So hence like the debating I'm doing about like the whole submerging, coming out
Okay.
of water, being underwater, stuff like that.
So water, we can start, by making those really, really simple symbols, right? And what would you say, tien, that would be, an opposite of water?
I guess either oil or like fire.
Okay, so let's think about fire. And you actually, this is great because you could think like, okay, this is so overly used within symbols, and if you think like this has been used hundreds and hundreds of times within like the human history. If you think, and I just pop out to my mind like right now, if you think about the same one we were talking, right? If we think about Dory, Finding Nemo, and if we think about Marley, if you think about the Terminator, the evil one, it's like water. And if you think about the good one, it's fire. If you think, just as two examples to get started, right? So, and actually, they use it like really obvious in terms of color. So you can see in Terminator 2, you can see like every shot with the evil guy tends to go blue, and every shot with the good one tends to go with this warm color, with orange. So we can start to apply like these two concepts. So would be that if we think about this, how would be probably that yin yang that we have against cold and warm. So if you think in terms of the yin yang, the cold would be the yin. The water would be the cold one, and this side would be. So it's always about that, about those two relationships. So then let's add something else. What do you think in terms of that family? What would you think, Dimana? What do you think would be cool, to talk about?
Family. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm blanking a little bit.
No worries. If you want, like, we can like start probably with Tien as well. We can take something out of it.
I'm also blanking on it. I'm sorry.
No worries. It's all family. It's all as well. It's about relationships. It's about community. So we got to be very careful, especially nowadays with because like the social media gives us this great gift, right? That we can have Dimanas in New York, Tien in San Diego, and I'm here in Colombia, and we can have this classes, which is so cool. It's never been like this, and never before in history these things were able to happen. But sometimes it has a problem. Like the downside of this is that we're not connecting for real, right? So we're not seeing each other every day, and probably, I don't know, I'm never telling you, are you hungry? Do you want to eat some water while we have class? Like we're not having like this real connection, right, with each other. So we got to be really into this right now more than ever. I believe it is a responsibility even to think about these relationships, So if you have friends, if you have like family members and so on, I really, really encourage you, to hold on those things, like probably like it is one of the most important things in our lives. One of the things that makes us be happy, like really complete, and to have like a deeper purpose in life. So I understand like the reason probably, like, yeah, we tend to to be blank out with this kind of thoughts, but these are probably the ones that we should, treasure the most within ourselves. So I don't know, probably I was thinking one uncle of mine, he's getting really, really he's getting old, and that's something that so it's something that gets me, deep within me, because I care a lot about him, right? So what it's, his relationship, I don't know, let's say with me. Okay, so and me, I'm just, like the same thing, that the first thing that comes to my mind right now. So he's like almost like he's 80 years old now, and his thought process is not as good as it was some years ago. So it's pretty harsh, to start, to see how the pass of time, so that like is starting to affect him. So probably time is one of those things that are more we as humans are the ones who can understand, like probably that concept of time. The mammals and the reptiles not so much, they're in this eternal present, so they're not caring so much about that. So if I think, that when we think, about family, it is super, super easy, to then, jump into one of those core things, that are, the mortality. So we're not, so one of the things that we want is to survive, right? So what are we gonna do if we're mortal? So you see, by having like those deep questions, we go into all those three, and we go, and if we're honest with those questions hit us, in the heart, in our hearts, and they're not just here, right? It's not the mortality that it's important to me. It's if it's attached to my family, and if it's attached, to one of those core things, which is, thinking about my own mortality. So what I'm saying with, those basic things, with those core things, it's how we, start to attach them into a composition. So how are we, start, to go into all of this, and how we, start to turn this into a metaphor, into something that we are able to see in one composition. So we can take like lots of examples and start, to play out with this idea. So I don't know if probably Tien or Demana, if you want to add probably something to the survival part, to that basic instinct that probably I'm not seeing here, that it's connected to these other two, which is, the mammal and the human brain. So what do you say, Dimana? You wanna try something?
Maybe there is like, I don't know, like a racial conflict, or like between species or something like that, that's influencing the entire situation.
Okay, cool. So I find that that's really cool. We turned this into more sci-fi kind of thing, right? Or probably more biological thing, which I like that as well. So between species, So what do you think, Tian? Which species do you think would be cool, to add here?
I really like dragons for some reason. I was born in the year of the dragon, so maybe a dragon.
Okay, dragon. So you see, when we think about dragon, it's really easy, to start to think, okay, fire, the fire of the dragon, right? Or if you think, okay, what are those sea dragons? So we start to think about those about water, So and what do you think, Dimana, would be a cool thing? What would you think it would be, a complete opposite of a dragon?
Something soft and cuddly. So maybe like, I don't know, um, bunnies.
Okay, bunny, that's cool. So you see, we have like these three concepts, and we can attach them to the composition, right? So what if, what if it's an old bunny, or if it's for some reason their family, right? An uncle, and let's say I'm a dragon, or I'm a bunny, right? So it's great, to start, to experiment, like we're doing right now. You see, probably we're like almost like shooting in the dark, and it feels like really abstract. But here, it's probably, to be honest with you, probably we're doing something more interesting than most of the things that are going on Netflix nowadays. Like, this is so cool, we're thinking about those, all those things, and how we interact with all of them, right? So let's say, if, and we started attached to every single part of this parts of the brain, we start to attach each one of this, right? So you see, we have an like two opposites in each one of them, and we can start, to mix them like a cocktail. So let's say, the uncle, it's something orange, something really fiery. So something we can start, to play out within I'm just, starting to think, okay, where there's chimney, right? And chimney, it's the symbol of how, this uncle, he's really about fire. So he's on the side, and then probably he's in a chair. So you see, we started, to play out with this really sketches that are not supposed to be beautiful or anything. It's just how are those, started play out within these ideas. It is more about the ideas and how we turn those ideas into images. So if we think, okay, he's, the Billie Eilish of the concert, he's the important one here. So everything about the composition would be and how to see him, probably. So, there's like the light of the fire. It's getting like touching him, and the rest of the room, it's darker. So, hopefully, with this examples, you're starting to get what I mean with these ideas. So you see, now the composition, it's about him. And the more we go, darker with the opposites, the more it'll be about him. And if we want to think, okay, what's the opposite of that really orange thing, that really orange light? So let me, okay, we have like so something really blue. And you see, like we're taking really basic, it's supposed to be like almost dumb concepts, but it's like Annie Leibovitz always says, like she says, like she doesn't have like for her photographs, she's like really big photographer. She's awesome. Her photographs are really cool, and she says, I never have great ideas. I just have like dumb ideas, but when I apply them, into images, they look really, they are strong. So you see, we're starting to have like that relationship between blue and orange. And let's say, someone is looking at the window. Let's say, this is, we were saying like he's a dragon, right? So we take, you see, you can start like really basic and then start to turn him into anything that you want. And the guy outside, it's a bunny. So we can see like he's really like a tiny bunny. So he's just, looking at the window. So we have like this super like dumb thing. We haven't, make anything in terms of drawing. It's nothing, right? But what is the relationship about them, right? Otherwise, the composition makes no sense, right? If we don't have like these guidelines right underneath, like there's almost no way, to figure it out. What are we, supposed to do with our image if we don't have this base, this structure? It would be, it would be completely random. But now we have something really specific, right? So I was mentioning to you, probably we have the uncle. He's really old, and he's feeling probably, how can we show that he's vulnerable, right? How are we turning this the symbols, the things that we have in our image. How are we, turn this into that? So we can do lots of things, right? Like there's almost no limit whatsoever. So if we were thinking about, the left and right and left, right? So I don't know, I'm just, shooting in the dark right now. I feel like there's a lot of time for him to look to this side. But now we're saying he doesn't have that much of time. So one of the things that I'm going to do the first thing I'm going to do is to flip it. So he's in the corner, right? You feel that? This is like he's completely free. He's got all the things that in this space, he's got all that movement, but now he's in a corner. You feel it? For me, that's super exciting, to like how just by flipping something and having, this underneath idea, we start, to connect all the ideas and everything started to make sense, right? And it's not random anymore. So see, he's old. He's feeling right in the corner. And the bunny, probably he's got more time. So probably because he's got more time, I want to, give more. He's able, to breathe a lot more on the other side. You see, just by taking those essential elements, we started to create some sense out of the composition, and it's not random anymore. So what else? What do you think would be, cool in terms of those concepts that we? So what I'm starting, to see like how we started with this basic. So you see like the big difference right here. And always having, those concepts that are attached, to those three things within the brain. The reptile, the mammal, and the human. That's probably one of the reasons I love so much, Zootopia. It gets, to all those three really, really in a really effective way. And, it cannot be more straight, the message, because those are animals. So that's why we feel, that right away. So in terms of study for, to study animation and to study like symbols, that's a great movie too. So what else do you think, like, is he feeling something that I would like, probably he's feeling trapped, by, his the age of he's getting old and he's not anymore something that happens, to people, going into when they're getting old, their space, they fill their space with lots of stuff and they lose like the sense of freedom because they're so full with stuff and we feel like there's the lamp and like all this stuff and there's not such a, they don't have space anymore for themselves. It's more about, how they start to feel their thing, their whole life with stuff. So they're like things on the ceiling, and he feels, I don't know, let's say probably he feels really lonely. So how do we make, someone feel really lonely? By making the space bigger. It's like those really simple ideas. How do we make him feel, and probably even lonelier, if we put him in front of him like an empty chair? So there's like this really bright chair, but there's no one anymore. So you see, like those things, they started, to remind me a lot of like the golden ages of Pixar, right? They feel really sad, and at the same time, they feel really exciting. Why? Because they're going into those three. So you see how we, by developing this same idea, we start to go and dive in more and more into this concepts. So what if, he's not so much in his mind, he's not so much the dragon, it's not so much in his head, it's more about his heart. So you see, it's like turning, do as much as you can to turn this into poetry with images. So you see, it could be like those symbols, but you don't have to go like really super detailed into any of this. So we are taking the dragon, and so what if it's not about his head, what he thinks, it's more about how he feels, right? So we're gonna take his head out of the, and it's more about his heart. So probably we can take, an even higher light in his chest. And it's, the same that goes into the fire. So you see how even we're not getting into any detail in terms of drawing, but because we're understanding this in terms of storytelling, in terms of those three parts of the brain, it really starts, to get more and more and deeper, into this idea. So what else do you have? Is it I don't know if you would like, to add something, Dimana, what do you think about this? Probably you're starting, to get some ideas out of, think about those three elements and how to place them, and, have a deeper way of saying those three within this, with opposites, with, all those things.
Maybe there is like water leaking in from the outside. So kind of like reinforcing that pressure.
Okay, cool. I like that. Let me. So probably, yeah, the thing is probably, the the ceiling is so old that some of the water from some water from the outside is leaking. You mean that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty good. What do you think, Tien?
The snow, there could be like snow from outside the window going into the room, maybe.
Okay, cool. I like that. So yeah, it's like a storm outside, which makes, you see the contrast. It is so, it's starting, to become such a cool thing, right? Because at the beginning it was like we had like this, like two sticks, and now that we have like those elements with this, everything started to make sense in terms of how to tell the story. And you see, it's not random anymore. It starts to be something that makes sense, right? So probably. So remember, like we have like the diva of the composition. So we want to go with that, but don't take the importance out of the dragon. So yeah, we have like he's the most important thing within the composition. Something always, to have in mind. So I'm making note of like those little dots and here. So I'm going a bit like that. To make the opposite, probably there's this the light of the window, it's going in as well, going from the to the opposite side, like it's not even going. So you can go, with that, with direction of light, which is something that you should direct when you're like doing your scenes and your images. How is it the light? It's gonna say something, right? So is the light affecting him, or is he like right in the corner, in the dark corner, and probably the light, it's the opposite, going on the opposite side. So he feels even lonelier, probably. The light is not going with him. So you see, bit by bit, we're starting to have a more and more developed scene, a more developed composition. But we wouldn't have anything, to say about this if we're, if we don't have like all these things at the beginning. So let me start, to add more stuff on top. So let's, think more about the placing of the camera. So if we're going and diving more and more into the placing of the camera, how can we, increase more the feelings of those ideas? So what would you say, Dimana? Well, what do you think we can do with the camera so we can feel, those three concepts, even more in the image?
Well, depending on like whose point of view maybe
Yeah.
was looking from outside, from behind the rabbit.
Okay, so we changed the point, the side view of the camera, right?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. We can try that as well.
Or I don't know if it was like the same point of view, but it was looking more from like from a higher point of view, so that the characters look even more like detached.
Okay, so he feels like more into the ground, probably, right? You mean this?
Yeah.
Probably.
So it feels like smaller.
Okay, so yeah, he feels like he's almost drowned within. And what do you think, Tien? What would you like to add?
Maybe there could be like, I don't know, like a small lizard hanging from the ceiling, and we could be looking past him into the scene. Because I feel like if the lizard is like on the ceiling, then you can like use him as a sort of like perspective. I'm not sure.
I'm losing. I mean, what do you mean with that idea?
Well, I was thinking if you're gonna have the perspective be of um like looking down onto the scene, then maybe you could have like an extra character or something so that the viewer can sort of like use that extra character as a sort of guide into the scene, if that makes sense.
You mean like a connection in between them?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, something. It's really important that if sometimes some of the ideas at some point could feel a bit random, right? Which is nice, which is important to to allow that randomness because it feels more natural. But it's really important that if we place anything, we're still going into those three, right? So we never like start to say, okay, where's the like what if there's a spaceship? No, it wouldn't make any sense, in terms of those three, right? So if you're like adding like that third character, the thing the character you're thinking here, it's really cool, probably because he's I don't know, let's say he's at the top of the chair. So let's say he's giving him company, but instead of looking at him, like he just saw like there's someone outside the window. So you see, by making this, we're making something that we can do with composition, which is with sight. With the sight, we're giving direction to our composition. So if you know that, I don't know, if probably this is too tiny, but if we can see the side of enough, the side of the our eyes would go, we would see like this, right? And suddenly when we see, the view, we would go immediately to the window. You see? So that's pretty cool. You can use the sight to guide the viewer, to guide the audience to watch something. So I want to add something else. I want to take this and think like this is more a closer kind of composition. So we feel like this is like really like an intimate scene. So one of the things that we can do when we're actually thinking about, you know, those kind of intimate scenes, more than and the audiovisual things, it's and like something is spying on like, let's say like there's an old lamp here, so probably there's like, we can probably even, you know, start if we think, okay, this is turned on, we got to be careful not to take way too much attention, right? So in this case, I don't want it, you know, I want it to be I want it to be off, so it doesn't take too much attention. But if you want to add like second lights, think how those lights are going to be actually guiding our sight. So I'm gonna cut this and paste this. I want to make this a bit bigger. Oh, no, just a tiny bit. I want to go, and so we can give depth, you know, to this scene. I'm gonna make this a little bit like less dark. So this is, you know, the thing we were mentioning, to give atmosphere, perspective with things. So the closer, the darker, and the farther away, the lighter. So I'm gonna go and take, you know, this and like that. You know, we give a more like distance. You see how the lamp and the chair at the front goes more to the front just by, you know, making that little change with them. And I know this one is looking way too bright, so I want to take this like that. And to make it more intimate, like we were saying, we can blur out this so it feels like it's really close, and the lenses are not able, you know, to even it is so close to the viewer that we can't even focus into that part. So I'm gonna go and take, you know, the corners so we can see those things. So you see everything that we solved here, it's thinking about this, you know, this narrative. And it is, for me, it is impossible, you know, to think about composition if we're not thinking about those principles, right? That's why we had, you know, we have to connect those dots. You know, we got to connect all those three, right? In order to make more, to make it work, right? So I want to go probably lighter, because if I blurred my vision, and if let's say we start a thing, you know, in terms of light, and if we take the saturation, you see like there's nothing like going really taking, you know, our sight tends to, am I looking here or here? You see, it's like what's the diva of my, what do you know, what's the what's the Billie Eilish of my composition. So you see, it's not anymore, right? In terms of lighting, in terms of value. So I want to be more careful about that and start, to think in those terms. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to copy it, paste it on top, and I'm going to go with curves and make brighter, more contrast on it. And at the same time, I want to go probably and give more saturation to it. And I'm going to take that one under. So I take just and I erase on top of the dragon, of that point that I want to give more importance to. So my sight goes right there. And you can go again and redo the same exercise. So probably, my eyes are going straight out to that point, right? It's really obvious now. You see, like the difference, it's subtle, but it makes a difference. And it depends on the thing you want to say. You see, like how everything we arranged, it's depending on that message that you want to deliver. Not just because I like to, but so you see, like everything here, it's lighter. So now even in the grayscale version, my eyes are going to that place. You see? So you can go even more with more subtlety, and think, okay, probably those underneath things, like probably this is cutting the composition way too hard. And it's in the middle, so it feels a bit. I don't like it, right? So you can take and think, okay, what if that shape, it's actually pointing, like at the dragon. You see, like, so subconsciously it would be like pointing at him. So you see that for me, it's working way better, right? And probably this is going even, and those things that were on top, I'm gonna make them lower. So this is like one of the things that I found like super, super beautiful when you're going with a great story, and then you start, to have all those themes within your composition. Otherwise, it's like shooting in the dark. There's no make sense. Like you could say, okay, that's a beautiful image, but what about it? What's the point? Right? So what else? What do you think, Dimana? What would you like to add to it? Thinking about those three main subjects.
Maybe in the context of the conflict, there's something burning in the fire, like I don't know, like pamphlets or like documents or something.
Okay, cool. So that's, to give time to it. So probably there's something going on that we don't know, right? So probably, we can see the hand of the dragon, and he's going with some documents or something you were saying, like, so he's starting to so probably in this chair we have like some of those documents, like, you mean this, like something like that?
Yeah, or maybe he's like throwing them in the fire.
Okay, so probably we can see like and you see, like, it is so great, to allow yourself, to do this with really, really, really bad drawings. Otherwise, it would be like really. Imagine that we took into any of these ideas, we took like 3 hours, developing one of the illustrations, probably days. But if we're going like this, it is so, like, there's no problem. I can do that, and it's not painful. And that's a way, a great way, to keep exploring. So you can see probably, he's dropping some of the documents on the fire. And probably would be cool that if he's got documents, we feel like he's got glasses. So we know he's doing something related to him, right? And I'm really into dragons as well, so that this is pretty cool subject. What else? What do you think? Yeah, Tian, what do you think would be cool to add here?
Maybe the rabbit could also be holding some letters. Like it was going to give the dragon some letters, but it just stops because it sees that the dragon is dropping the letters into the fire.
This is really cool. So he's got like, and we feel like actually, if we think about those emotions, and he's feeling like cold outside, so probably, we even feel, the sad face of the bunny. And to think about those changes with the subject matter, we're going with the tinier bunny. So he's actually not he's like outside of the window with some you were saying, like, that's pretty cool, with some documents on the. So yeah, we can feel like he's holding some papers. So you see, with this methods, it makes so much sense if we start, to create images and to be creative, because it makes sense within all of this. you can see like how those cocktails start to make flavors within our head, which is super cool. You know, we start to see, okay, but why the rabbit is sad, and why he's burning these things, and we feel the contrast between fire, between yeah, cold and warm, between you know, why he's, you know, so many questions might you know, start to rise, and it's not a flat thing anymore, because we're taking care of those three things within our brain. And yeah, we can do that with really simple stuff. And it's more not, and it's simple doesn't mean like it's not worthy. It's like we're like the essence, at the essence, like that, those are the some of the things that makes us human, right? Some that makes us alive. So that's why those are like effective, right? So yeah, I find this fascinating, right? And probably some of those things, of these things, are like that we have to, in my opinion, that we have to be thinking when creating images, right? Because that's what makes them entertaining, exciting, and probably, you know, if we want to start to write a story as well, those things are going to be really helpful as well. So what else do you think, Dimana, would be cool, you know, to add here? So in order, you know, to keep with this, to keep going with the same idea. So this we can so we can see the silhouette a bit better.
I don't know, honestly. I feel like there's already a lot going on. Um,
Yeah, think about those elements, right? You can start you can use light, you can use color, you can use how to make, you know, things more focused, less focused, contrast, shape, language, you know, you can do and yeah, it's great that, as you mentioned, if your idea it's starting to feel like it's already working, probably you don't need to add more and more and more and more, right? It's great, you know, to have a moment where you say, or you say, okay, this is great in terms of composition, this is it, I don't need anything more, like in those essential terms. So but it's great, you know, to keep asking, like, what if, what if. The more we keep asking what ifs, the more we can actually get the best out of something, right? So let me something that I just thought about that would be cool. We can take, like, you see, like, this is really straight, so this is, you know, that like the lines here feel really straight, but the dragon could be like around him, surrounding him could be a really round thing. So if we think like how that light around him, it's actually, you know, subconsciously we're going for two different kind of shapes, language, right? So we can subconsciously go, right, and think this is round, right, and this is pointy. So I'm going for that round idea. but I'm not. I want, you know, the readability of the character. So I'm going that, you know, that light is going behind him. So you see, it's always asking what if, and by, you know, getting more and more of those, how can we, you know, add more to the same concept. See, that one for me, it's adding something. It's not making noise, but it's adding something that I really like want to say in terms of composition. So you see, we started bit by bit, started to add like those elements. So let me take this into another. So do you think about something else? Would you like to add something, Dimano or Chien, about this one?
I'm not so sure about the lamp, the bright lamp on the next to the rabbit.
Yeah.
It-
Would you like to take it out of the composition?
I mean, I think it would look good if you kind of made it, you just kind of turn it black, just color it black, like the chair
Yeah.
next to it, because I feel like it's kind of distracting sometimes.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, you're right. So let me copy this and paste it. Oh, sorry, no, it's not copy. Let's cut it. So we can see like the overall thing, how we advanced, you know, from the first to the last one, right? And that would be, you know, like at this point, if I think about this, I really want to do probably, you know, this composition. It's so exciting, so cool. It's not something like randomly boring. No, it's something that it has such a like meaningful story, right? So I'm taking this. I'm gonna take this one by so I'm taking this one with this merge down. So we have so we can see the progression, how by asking us questions to ourselves, like we're asking questions, we're going from the scratchiest thing ever, you know, like it's like the sketch is nothing, and then we end up with something that it's pretty cool. So I'm going with this one. I'm taking probably, yeah, at the end, if you want to take a screenshot, we can, you know, we can do that. You can take your screenshot, so you have like this as a reference, and you can then, you know, start to turn the symbols into anything, right? It's not that it just works with this, right? So I'm taking this one and this one. And the lamp you were saying, right? I feel you're completely right about this. It's way better if we take, instead of thinking of adding more, it's how we start to blur things so they're not driving so much attention from us. So probably like really dark there and a bit of blur. Better, way better, you're right. So this is like how we start, by going from the concept, from those, how to construct the idea. So we make sense out of how to create a composition, right? So you can, like, probably if you want to take right here the screenshot. So you see the progression, right? We are going from this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And all of this, we can, as well, as Dimana was mentioning at one point, it's how we don't set with the first, with the first placement of the camera, right? When we can start to think, okay, what if, instead of going from within, it's the side view, it's from the bunny's point of view. And the more we do this kind of things, the better the narrative we create, right? So yeah, I believe this is it for today's lesson. If you have any questions or anything, we can answer them before we end.
JM,
Yeah.
this is a question more about like the recording more than the lesson, but is it possible for you to like post this recording onto
Yeah.
YouTube? Like, because
Yeah.
I know you're gonna give me the file in the university and stuff, but can I just have this recording on the YouTube so I can watch it?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
And what about you, Dimana? Do you have any questions?
I don't think so at the moment. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, and my pleasure. Remember, like probably now some of the questions are not yeah, you don't have the questions right now, but probably when you're started work or something, though those started to pop out. So yeah, just let me know if you have any, and see you in our next class. Okay.
Okay, Jim, thank you.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very much,
you.
and see you in our next class.
Thank you, Jim. See you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
A lot. Bye bye.